summer of 1914, few people believed it would last long. Across Europe, soldiers marched off to war convinced they would be home before the year was over. Civilians gathered in the streets to cheer them on, waving flags and throwing flowers. Politicians spoke confidently about quick victories. Newspapers predicted decisive battles within weeks. The phrase "home by Christmas" became a common belief, not just among soldiers, but among entire nations. So how did almost everyone get it so wrong? To understand why World War I was expected to end quickly, you have to understand how people thought wars were fought before 1914. For most of the 19th century, wars in Europe were relatively short. Conflicts like the Franco-Prussian War ended in months, not years. Battles were often decisive, and once an army was defeated, the war usually followed. Military leaders believed future wars would follow the same pattern. They also believed that modern railways would make war faster. Trains could move troops and supplies at unprecedented speeds, allowing armies to strike quickly and overwhelm their enemies. Instead of dragging wars out, technology was expected to shorten them. This confidence shaped military planning. Germany, for example, built its entire strategy around the idea of a quick war. The Schlieffen Plan was designed to knock France out of the conflict in just 6 weeks. German forces would sweep through Belgium, surround Paris, and force a French surrender before Russia could fully mobilize in the east. France had its own expectations. French military doctrine emphasized speed, aggression, and morale. Commanders believed that offensive spirit could overcome any obstacle. The idea that a war could bog down into years of stalemate simply wasn't taken seriously. Even soldiers themselves believed the war would be brief. Many enlisted with excitement, viewing the conflict as an adventure. Some thought it would be a chance to prove themselves. Others felt social pressure to join, fearing they would miss out or be judged if they stayed behind. Letters home from early in the war are often filled with optimism and confidence. But that optimism began to fade almost immediately. As armies collided in the opening months of the war, it became clear that old assumptions no longer applied. Machine guns, artillery, and modern rifles made traditional tactics incredibly costly. Infantry charges that might have worked decades earlier now resulted in staggering losses. Battles like the Battle of the Frontiers and the First Battle of the Marne showed that neither side could deliver a quick knockout blow. Instead of decisive victories, both sides suffered enormous casualties with little strategic gain. As autumn turned to winter, something unexpected happened. Instead of continuing to maneuver, armies began digging into the ground. Trenches stretched across the landscape as soldiers sought protection from bullets and shells. What began as temporary defensive positions soon became permanent. The Western Front froze into a line that barely moved for years. By Christmas of 1914, the idea of a short war was already collapsing. Yet even then, many still believed the stalemate would be temporary. Leaders insisted that one more offensive, one more push, would break the enemy. New weapons and tactics were promised as solutions. Few were willing to admit that the war had fundamentally changed. Meanwhile, the reality of the conflict set in for soldiers at the front. Instead of triumphant marches, daily life became a struggle for survival. Trenches filled with mud and water. Supplies were limited. Shelling was constant. Soldiers lived under the threat of sudden death, often without seeing the enemy at all. The contrast between expectations and reality was shocking. By the end of 1914, casualties were already in the millions. Families who had expected their sons home for the holidays instead received telegrams delivering devastating news. The war that was supposed to be quick and glorious had become long, brutal, and uncertain. So why did leaders continue to believe victory was just around the corner? Part of the answer lies in pride and fear. Admitting that the war would be long meant admitting failure in planning. It also meant asking civilians to endure years of sacrifice. Governments feared losing public support if they told the truth. There was also a belief that endurance itself would decide the war. If one side could simply hold on longer, the other would eventually collapse. This thinking turned the conflict into a war of attrition, where success was measured not in territory gained, but in lives lost. As months turned into years, the phrase "home by Christmas" took on a bitter meaning. Each new Christmas came and went, with soldiers still in the trenches and families still waiting. The optimism of 1914 was replaced by exhaustion and grief. The war expanded beyond Europe, drawing in new nations and spreading across the globe. By the time the fighting finally ended in 1918, the world was unrecognizable from the one that had confidently marched into war 4 years earlier. World War I was not short. It was not simple. And it was not what anyone expected. The belief that the war would be over by Christmas wasn't just a miscalculation, it was a warning. A warning about what happens when confidence outruns reality, and when modern technology collides with outdated thinking. And the cost of that mistake was measured in millions of lives. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and comment below which part of World War I you'd like to see covered in more depth next.